So I was looking for a recording of our recent meetings, but I couldn't find it on the website. So I don't know whether it's there somewhere, and I don't know where it is.
So I had the same conversation with Councillor Turkelson this morning, and I know Director Lynn Poyant also weighed in. So when I assumed the role of this staff support for this, I looked back and there was never any recordings posted. Cindy and whoever managed the staff support previously recorded them just for accuracy of meeting minutes. So that's what I've been doing. But Lynn did say, Barry, since you are the chair, if you would like the meetings to be posted on the town website, we can certainly do that. We just need to read a disclosure at the beginning of each meeting, which I actually have in all of our meeting agendas and meeting minutes anyway, just to cover myself for recording for my own purposes. So we can certainly start doing that moving forward. And then if anyone wants any previous recordings, I can send them through file transfer. But Lynn will not, I shouldn't say Lynn, the town will not post any that didn't have the disclosure read at the beginning of the meeting. So I can keep them, which I have, and I can send them to us.
Okay, so this would be really then going forward, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So I'd like to get the opinion of other members of the committee and Kristen as well. I know the town stresses transparency, and I'd like to know what other people think.
We've discussed this probably before you joined us a year ago, or a little over a year ago. And I think it was Catherine who brought up how polarized some discussions can be. And I think even though it's supposed to be like non-attribution kind of thing, I think it would limit discussion, I guess. I've been opposed to it. I think that if we have good minutes, and anybody's welcome to come to the meeting. If they're interested in the topic, they can come to the meeting. I don't think it's necessary. I think, and I think Catherine pointed out that she thought it could open us up to some harassment just from having an open discussion.
Yeah, so this was before my time, so I assume Catherine was a member of the committee.
Yeah, I think she resigned almost the same time you joined. She had a bunch of, she was working full time, and she also had an elderly parent she was caring for, and I think it just got to be too much for her. But she was a good, she was a participating member when she was here, but it just got to be too much for her. But I kind of agree. I agree, and I guess some of it was even, did we want to have the meetings like video recorded, since we're on Zoom and you can do that? And we're not making backroom deals, but I think it would limit open discussion of some of our perceptions and challenges with what is how we make progress on various issues.
Just before, I know Rob wanted to say something, but just so everyone's aware of the technical sort of what it would look like, is it wouldn't be recorded by the government access channel. So it would literally be the recording I take on Zoom. I don't know if that changes anyone's perspective. I don't think it probably will, but just so you all know what the final product would look like, it would be just essentially the recording of the screen that we all see here. I just want to make that clear. It's not going to look necessarily like the way some public meetings that are recorded in the town hall hearing room look, for example.
Okay.
My opinion is we are a public committee, and we should be available to the public, and that I think entails recording. And I don't, I think we're on this committee. The viewpoints ought to be known. If you don't want your viewpoints in the public, don't speak them here.
Anyone else? Kristen, I'm especially interested in your opinion, and we're from the town council perspective, because we're really an advisory committee to the town council, whether you or you think that from the perspective of the town council that they have a view.
Well, it's just funny because I brought this up today with Kelly because I wanted to go back and watch the meetings that I missed. And she was able to send me the file transfer. But I guess I had never looked to see if the recording was available because when I went back and read 2 years worth of agendas and minutes in order to prepare for my first meeting as the town council liaison, it didn't occur to me to look for the video because of course I'm catching up and I was, I didn't have a lot of free time to be spending watching hours of videos. So I read the agendas and the minutes, but it occurred to me that the videos weren't available and I thought that was weird. So from my perspective, I think it's important that people be able to see any of the discussions. I think that you should treat this like an open public meeting, which it is. Open meeting law states that we have to post an agenda and we have to be accountable to that process. So I think if you can't have that discussion in the light of day, then maybe this isn't the right place to be participating on a committee level. I think we're held to the standard that, we're asking our town councilors to be transparent. We should be doing the same in every committee, board, and commission in the town. And I think, especially because we've gone Zoom, we have this technology, we're using it everywhere. We should be using it in every board, committee, and commission. Because again, if we're going to be asking people to come and participate in this committee and we're trying to gain, people on your committee, they can't go back and watch the minutes easily or go back and watch the meeting easily. And again, I don't know that people would even know who to reach out to have that sent to them. And then somebody would be sending maybe 6 months of meetings. I just think for convenience, a lot of them are already videoed, and I think that we should get up to speed on that.
Yeah, I'm sympathetic to that, and I just have a factual question. I looked online on the town's website. There are probably 20 committees that have the videos. We're not one of them. Are we unusual in that respect, or is this relatively commonplace?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I can really shed light on that, but I did the same thing when I assumed the role of staff support because I noticed that there weren't any recordings posted, but I knew that previous staff support were recording them for their purposes. And I looked and it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, some of the like larger committees that are held like in the town hall hearing room, for example, those are all typically recorded, but there are a lot that are Zoom that are not recorded and don't have videos. There's also a lot that aren't even keeping up on their minutes, to be honest, that I've noticed. So it kind of seems like it's been up to the committee to some regard, which kind of circles back on Director Poyant's point that we can make that decision. Certainly, Barry, you can make that decision about if we want to post videos or not. And maybe that's an error on my part when not asking those questions when I first joined. I kind of was just following status quo of the previous staff support. But not every committee does have videos. So it's sort of, leaves it up to the committee as, what do we want to do moving forward?
Okay. Well, that's helpful. So let me ask Peter and John whether you have an opinion on this.
To me, it's a close call. I think Jane makes some very, very valid points. But when I balance out the two considerations, I come down in favor of saying it should be the recording should be available. I think it's more important to have the transparency.
Yeah. Right. Okay, Peter.
I would agree with that.
Okay. And I'm going to agree with that as well. So I guess we've got a majority. So would it start with this meeting or would it start with the next meeting? It would start with this meeting.
I think we can start with this meeting, and
Okay.
I don't know if it necessarily has to be you that reads the disclosure, or if I can read it. I can ask Lynn that question. But
well, why don't you read it for this
I'll
meeting?
read it I'll read it for this one just since I have it in front of me.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I would say we start with this meeting, and it's, from what I understand, it's pretty easy. I'll just send them the MP4 file that I have and they'll upload it to the committee page. That's pretty much the same time they upload the meeting minutes for us. So this meeting of the Barnstable Infrastructure and Energy Committee is being recorded and will be posted for future viewing on the Town of Barnstable website. under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20. Anyone else desiring to make such recording or transmission must notify the chair. And with that, we can start.
Okay.
I just have one more comment, and it's not to dispute what you just decided. It's something I found on another Zoom meeting that I was on earlier this morning. And I don't know if anyone knows about it, Kelly, particularly for you. There's a Zoom AI companion option that you can run as we're running our meeting. And it actually, it's like a ghostwriter. It takes very good minutes. I was amazed at the three of us on this small committee meeting this morning. It was incredible. It was as if it had been minutes written from a recording, you know, so-and-so opened the meeting, these were the attendees, this is what was discussed, and this is what each one of the people promised to do. And it was all AI generated through Zoom.
Yeah, we have talked about that. I don't know if it's an add-on or something that I have to enable, but we have talked about that because it does take significant time. I mean, I take most of the minutes during the meeting, but I record so I can go back and check for, you know, I can verify, make sure they're accurate. But we have been discussing that.
It might be something you would want to do in parallel for a bit to make sure that it wasn't putting words in your mouth or in any of our mouths, but it was pretty impressive. I was excited, John. Yeah.
Well, I just think there's a risk if we do that, that the AI makes a mistake and misinterprets something, and then that's out there.
Yeah,
And
no,
I,
you
you
have
know,
to.
I mean, I think if we did that, somebody would have to, before that was made public, someone would have to read it and make sure that and check the accuracy of it. So
Yeah, definitely.
I'm fascinated by it, but I'm scared by it too.
Well,
it definitely doesn't eliminate the need for staff support at the end of the day.
No.
Yeah.
But it might give you a good starting draft. It was for our very short meeting on a very limited set of topics this morning. It was amazing.
Okay. Kristen, you wanted to say something?
Kelly, I'm gonna send to you some information about that AI stuff. As far as the only other thing we all need to consider is the amount of data mining that they can use by and enabling those features. There's been some research that shows they're actually using audio and video to help generate AI long-term. So they are using our images, our likeness, our words, our concepts, our thoughts. So it does reduce your privacy. You know, I do therapy online, and that's one of the things. She will no longer use this platform for that reason, because she can't be certain that there's any privacy within this platform. So I'll send you that information. You can look at the settings. I don't have that on my own personal Zoom, so maybe it's something that, again, needs to be enabled or whatever, but you know, you can just read it and share it with the group, just so that people are aware.
Let me suggest that you not use that until we have another discussion and people are comfortable with that.
I also don't think I really can unless IT approves it either, to be completely honest. I don't think it's something we've kind of talked about in the office here. Is like, hey, have you heard about this? Maybe it can save time for some meetings, but I don't think it's anything I can enable myself by any means.
Okay. So anyway, so at the end, let's kind of move on from this discussion, but the minutes will reflect that we're going to record. Well, we have been recording it, but we're going to the town will post online the meeting, the recording of it. All right. So the next thing is the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Does anyone have any comments on it? They look good to me. Any motions to approve?
There's a spelling error.
Okay, where's that?
What else? It's on stretch code. The second last page.
Yeah.
Fourth paragraph. Typo.
Yeah. There's a paragraph under section A.
Yep.
Fourth paragraph, third paragraph, stretch code. Got that?
Yep. We'll edit that.
Otherwise, I motion approved.
Thank you.
Well, with that edit, okay, you move to approve the minutes. Is that it, Rob? And I
I
guess
second.
Peter seconds it. All in favor? Okay,
Aye.
the minutes are approved with that modification. All right, so next, we're going to hand it over to John to talk about food waste.
Okay, so let me start. I'll just recap very quickly the reasons why there's all the benefits that we can get from capturing food waste. The first one, of course, is reduction of methane, and the second one being addressing the solid waste problem that all we have in the whole country. And then the third one, the third benefit, of course, is all the beneficial compost that you generate. I'd like to emphasize methane when I talk about this, just because it's probably the least known of the benefits, and it's really perhaps the most important reason. Methane is really a major contributor to global warming. It's not as big a contributor as carbon dioxide, but it contributes a substantial amount. And municipal landfills are the third largest source of methane in the United States, 14.5%. So there's a real climate benefit that can be obtained just from the methane reduction. The EPA estimates that the climate impact of landfill methane is the equivalent of 20 million cars. So that's you could actually move the needle a little bit just by doing this. Then of course just looking at the solid waste management issue, food waste is about 25% of the waste stream. So you could take a huge amount out of the waste stream just there. And as landfill costs keep going up, we have to send the waste further and further, and there's a lot of energy use involved just in the transportation. So you could go a long ways towards solving that problem. And then finally, the environmental benefits of the compost are tremendous. You reduce the need for agricultural chemicals, for chemical fertilizer, pesticides. The compost retains water very well, so you need less water for irrigation. You can reclaim marginal soils. And basically, you promote plant growth, and that removes more carbon dioxide from the air. So there's just a tremendous amount to gain for really relatively little effort. This is not that hard to do. It's not complicated. It's not expensive. It's just a quick, simple way that you can make an immediate impact and a significant impact on climate change. And it's also, I think, a particularly appropriate thing for a town government to address. Some of the issues we face are difficult for a municipality to address, and some of them get very complicated. I mean, we've seen how complicated wind power can get, but this is simple, and it's really something that is really in the hands of the individual town. So I think it's really an area where our town government, could do something to make a difference. So, if we're on board that this is something that would be good to do, the question becomes, how do we move it forward? What's the concrete step that we can take? And there are, what I've tried to do is just identify some easy initial steps that we can take right now to promote this and start moving this forward. And what I'm really focused on is the waste collection that we have at the transfer station. Right now, we're getting less than 1% of the total amount of food waste that's going in there. The first thing we need better signage at the transfer station so people see that. It would be good if we could get the food waste collection as more of an integral part of the recycling area, as opposed to something that's sort of tacked on at the end of it where people don't see it. It would be great if we could promote this on our town social media sites. The town has a lot of presence on all the social media platforms, and I don't think it would be difficult or hard to use those to promote this. We're coming up to the sticker renewal time, and that's really a great opportunity to communicate with the with all the transfer station users. And I think we should capitalize on that to get this message out there. More and more of the stickers are being renewed online. Also, I don't know the latest on this, but I've heard that we may be going away from stickers and towards a license plate license plate recognition. And so if that's the case, I think much more of the sticker renewal will be electronic, and we just want to make sure that when people renew their sticker, they see this, they get this message. Then the second area that I would focus on to start are the local businesses, all the restaurants and other institutions. There is a Mass Department of Environmental Protection has a rule that any business is prohibited from generating or putting more than a half a ton per week into the waste stream of half a ton of food waste. And there are probably more than 100 businesses in town that would be subject to this. And we should get the word out to those businesses that this is a requirement, and that we expect them within a reasonable amount of time to come into compliance with that. So what we're sort of coming up against is, how do you move this from talking about this and saying, well, these are things that would be great for the town to do, to actually have it, actually moving forward with them. And I think, I don't, if we have the town council in favor of this, and when I did a presentation of the town council, I guess it was about a year ago, I had the impression that most of the council members did think this was something that we should move forward with. But then the question is, how do we get some type of direction to the town employees that these are actions that we want them to take? Maybe and I don't know if this is something that needs a town council vote, or if this is something that we just sit down with leadership and simply have some direction go, through the whatever the proper channel is. Maybe it needs to start with the town manager for the transfer station that's under DPW. So maybe it's Dan Santos. And this is really, I guess I'd really like to hear from Kristen on this. How do we, and again, assuming this is something that the committee agrees that we want to suggest that the town do, how do we put this in? How do we put this into action? And I think what that requires is giving some type of instructions to the town employees that we'd be relying on to implement this.
So, Kristen, do you want to speak here?
So it's my understanding that the transfer station comes under DPW, correct?
Yes.
So I would assume you'd want to go to DPW, but as far as asking restaurants to participate in this, I'm just trying to imagine logistically what that would look like. So John, have you thought about what that would look like if you were a restaurant owner and you created X amount of food waste in a shift? How that will get from your place of business to a place to be handled?
Yeah, you would have to hire a private hauler to come and pick it up. Maybe in some cases, some restaurants might have their own individual solutions. Maybe they would know a local farmer who could use this, but for the vast majority, it's going to be simply hiring a hauler to come and pick it up.
So I would think the first step that a restaurant owner would need to do is to separate the food waste from the other waste.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So
yes. Yeah. And the the Commonwealth, the Department of Environmental Protection has resources to assist businesses in figuring, in learning how to do this. It's not terribly complicated, but there are, there are some suggestions that they can make. They have folks who will come out and go to the businesses and help them set up.
I'm just thinking the expense of that, it will probably be a big, just accessing resources, who are the people, who are the vendors, how much does that cost? And,
Yeah.
And obviously people are busy, and I'm just wondering how much information, you have that you could already provide to, if you're gonna say that businesses need to start doing that, like you say, there's a place from here to here, there's a lot of stuff in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And how-
I agree, and I think this, to me, this is complicated. Just about any issue is, but thinking it through, I mean, just at a very high level, first, I'd like to get a sense of how much of the food waste is residential. Of that, how much is going to the transfer station? People hire private haulers, and
Yeah.
that goes elsewhere. The commercial part of it, maybe mostly restaurants, you have grocery stores, which are big. They have their own food waste. I don't know where that goes, but and then you have the town and the schools. So you've got different buckets. But my sense, and I listened to to your presentation, the town council meeting. What I got out of it was, yeah, they were conceptually supportive, but I thought when you have to-do items or action items, come back to us. So, and it seems to me, if we're dealing with a difference, DPW or Board of Health, we ought to talk to these first to get
That's
more.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, more grounding in fact. I just Jane has been raising her hand for a long time, so I'm going to stop and let Jane talk.
Yeah, I frankly don't think it's our job to deploy this program. I think this is a case where it's our job to be an advisor. And frankly, if you take a poll of where have municipalities from towns the size of Barnstable to major cities, what have they done? They've hired a contractor to do the whole thing. And somebody in their DPW equivalent is the oversight for that contract. And they figure out the details. For example, Falmouth has decided to do this, the town of Falmouth, and they are beginning to collect from all their schools. They've hired Black Earth. Black Earth picks up from a couple restaurants already in Hyannis, people that were interested in restaurants that were interested in doing this initially without the promotion. But I think this is it's kind of a well-oiled machine for contractors in this sector. And I don't think it's our job to work out the nitty-gritty. I think it's our job to do what John has already done beautifully, which is to give a recommendation to the council a year ago and say, this could save us money, save us methane. It's a behavior change, but it's going to require a team to do it. And it may require somebody like Sean is for David Anthony to be that person, at least part-time, in their role in DPW. It may require hiring another person, but then having a contractor that the town helps get going, and the town would pay for the school's pickup, but the restaurant owners could then pay for their own accounts. But I don't think it's our job to get in the weeds on this. As much as I agree with all the good ideas you have, I think that we're taking on the wrong role. That's my opinion. And you can look at cities, San Francisco, London, all these places that have their food bins out there, and they've figured it out. And in fact, San Francisco was an interesting case because they started a pilot project with a contractor probably about a dozen years ago, maybe a little bit more. The pilot went beautifully. They ended up turning around and passing it as a requirement for everybody in the city who has any kind of garbage pickup. They have to separate trash, recycling, and compostables. And they ended up turning around and hiring the same contractor that had done a good job with their pilot. And they've ended up making money on the composting because they sell it back as high quality compost to different entities. But I think we're getting outside our role. That's my thought.
I agree with a
Can
lot
I
of what you're
speak?
saying
Can I
there,
speak?
Jane.
Can I speak? Can I
Sure,
speak?
go ahead. Yep.
My hand's been up for a while.
I'm sorry. Actually, I apologize. I was looking for physical hands rather than yellow.
Yeah, we have
virtual.
technology. It's called Zoom. I agree with Jane. We're more of an advisory on this, and I think all we need to initially do is come up with a list of providers like Black Earth, because we don't necessarily need to be a arbiter of who is to be the contractor. And this list should just be sent to I suppose that's anyway. I don't know if we can afford to send it to all the restaurants or not, but be provided to the restaurants somehow, and they need to be aware that the program is there and the benefits, like we've said, about saving methane and saving truckage. I'm sure the food waste is much heavier than a lot of the other waste they have, so they'd probably save on haulage fees. But I think we just need to provide initially a list of people that would do the collection of food waste, and then try to get it from, work from there as to what our next steps would be, because that's something that we can do, because it's just going to be a list.
I mean, to answer your question, there are basically two companies that are in the business of doing this that are that would like to come down. They're looking for customers on the Cape, but that would like to come and pick up food waste. One is called Recycle Works, and one is Black Earth. We have to be a little careful if representing the town. We have to be a little bit careful about promoting private businesses.
But if the town makes this a priority within DPW, they just put out a request for proposal, and they describe what the collection company would need to be able to do. And either they decide that one or more companies will be able to do this in the town of Barnstable. And I think we're getting in weeds that are not our area of expertise. We're supposed to advise on programs and policies, not the details of the solutions. That's my thought.
Yes, and I think that, but I think we can play a role in working with people in the town in figuring out how to do this.
Right.
But this is really where I've run into difficulty, is in order to do that, in order to sit down with town employees and work with them on trying to implement some of this, there first has to be direction from the town that this is something that they should do. Because I can go to the folks at the transfer station and say, look, hey, you can't see the sign from the recycle area, but that's, they've got a lot of other stuff that they're worried about. And some guy walks in and, everybody's got, opinions about what they ought to be doing. And, just as an individual going in there, they're not really that interested in, they're interested, they're nice folks that, they'll talk to me, but I can't get a lot done.
They already have a job.
unless they're, the people who are paying them say that this is an important thing that's a priority. And I've got a list of, there of, a half dozen specific steps, when we renew the stickers, we really want to have some communication to promote this. But when you go to implement it, there has to be some dialogue, because for example, at the transfer station, the folks who do the stickers, they've been doing it for a long time. They really kind of know how it works and what they can do and what you can't do. And you know, I can have my ideas of, well, let's do this, that, but you have to kind of have a discussion about, and then try to work out a way to do it. But it's not productive to try. It's not going to be productive to make those suggestions unless unless it's explained to them that this is, you know, unless the town decides this is a priority and we want our employees to work to try to make this happen.
I'd like to hear from Peter. Can you give us a thought on what you think, how you think we can help move this along? And
my opinion has been, and it's been that way for a while, that we have to talk to Santos. We have to talk to whoever is the overall in charge of the various departments, and including the Board of Health, because they're in these restaurants on a daily basis, right? So, and we need to know what their attitude is, you know, and how they feel about it. And if you get nowhere with them, then you push it up to Markel's. We've already tried the town council. That won't work because they're 12 people and they just, you know, they don't have a specific agenda or, you know, criteria to work on. So I don't think the town council is, it's nice that they support it, but unless they come right out and tell Mark Ellis to step in line, which I doubt they would do, that isn't going to help us. So I think that Jane's right. We got to shed it to the structure in the town Barnstable, and we got to go see those people. We just invite them to the meeting or trot on down to see them, just see what they're up to. We may be surprised. Yeah, that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, but I mean,
so let me,
yeah. Can I, well, go ahead, Barry. But when you're done,
I
I'd
just
like
want to, Rob,
I'd like
you
to say
still have
something
your
on that.
hand up. So is it, do you want to speak again?
Yeah. What's that? Oh,
Yeah,
Rob.
thank you, Barry.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting back to Jane's RFP thing, I mean, I asked a while back about, you know, I got 5 garbage trucks coming down my street every Tuesday and Thursday or something, and about having a town, you know, bid out areas to one provider, but that nobody would seem to like that. So I don't know if we can have a single vendor come in and say, you know, we're going to have everybody use, you know, provider XYZ. So
John?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Rob. It's a little bit of a different idea than I sort of want to try to finish, you know, come up with some sort of plan on this. And it comes down to what is the role of our committee. And my understanding, I don't know if I'm right about this, but my understanding is that our role is to provide advice to the town council. And then the town council can decide if they like that advice or want to follow it or not. But it is not our role to go around to town employees and tell them how they should do their jobs. And
no.
it can't really work that way. And
Yeah,
I've tried to do that. I've tried to go to the folks at the transfer station and tell them how they ought to do their jobs. And it's not a productive way to move forward. Why should they listen? Why should they listen to me by walking off the street? Well, I'm on a committee. You should do what I say. We have to give our advice to the town council, and then if the town council agrees with that, then we have to come up with a plan that's clearly got the support, that's got a mandate from the town council, and then we can try to move it forward.
Yeah, I think there's a process issue here. And I think you know, I think, and frankly, my views are similar to what Peter articulated. I think that there's a need at some point in the process before you go to the town council to talk to, and let's talk about commercial food waste. It's not clear to me to what extent it's the DPW or the Board of Health. Maybe it's both. and having a discussion. Well, what are they doing currently? I mean, we don't know. You know, what are some of the problems in trying to do something about it? You know, maybe if we have ideas, we can talk to them about it. But I think to me, to have one needs to get more facts on the ground. I would think before you go to the town council. That's my sense of it. Um, I'm interested, Kristen, in what your thoughts are because you are in the town council.
Well, I don't think the town council directly controls the DPW, so I think there's a little bit of a disconnect. Maybe through budgeting, there is some leverage there. But I would think that, I mean, I like that what Jane is saying about Falmouth. Maybe it's worth, you know, having a call with Falmouth and seeing, you know, what was the entry point? I mean, maybe what it is, you want to start with a place that you can be more like a mandate. Okay, so we're gonna go to the town and we're gonna go to the school system and we're gonna think about hiring Black Earth and we're gonna set out, you know, if that's something that DPW wanted to do, they would go to town council would say, yes, we're gonna give you X amount of money for this. You know, maybe that's
Right.
the process is like starting with one piece so that you can have a place where you do have an entry point, because I don't know that right now you can run around to the restaurants and say you need to do this. I mean, I think if you wanted to look at the town issues, how can you help the town? And then maybe work from there. But I think maybe talking to Falmouth and seeing what their process has been and seeing how we can kind of learn from their success. And then taking that to DPW and calling, you know, sitting down and meeting with Director Santos and getting a real sense of what I'm sure he could probably guide you. This would be the best place.
Right.
This would be how you do it. This is who you talk to, you know.
Right, and whether this is something they're offering to the, say, restaurants in the town as an option or as a mandate. It's not, you know, or you do a pilot program first. So but you know, that makes sense to me. John, what do you think?
I don't,
That was
I'm kind of at a loss. You know, I have sort of some I think fairly simple things that I think we ought to do, and I don't know how to get them done.
right, and I think at least, you know, there are different buckets here, but at least of the commercial food waste that may be, you know, as Kristen suggested, that may be a good as place as any to start. We have two towns away from us that apparently have started doing something in this area. You know, let's find out what they've done.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, basically, I mean, I think it's I don't think the DPW is involved with with dealing with the restaurants in time. I think
Right.
it'd be really more the Board of Health.
Right, right.
And you know, the commercial that's a new area. It's, you know, it's less clear how to move it forward. I mean, what I'm suggesting is that we simply ask. We have a board. It's not just the Board of Health thing is probably the main one, but there are other town departments that are regularly visiting all the commercial establishments, and I would say that while we're there, we say ask them to inform them this is a state requirement, and we're not expecting you to instantly start doing it tomorrow, but we want you to be aware of this, and we think we ought to have a plan we want you to come up with a plan to in a reasonable amount of time start doing this. I mean, what I'd like to do is I'd like to sit down with the folks at the Board of Health and say, you know, you're dealing with these folks all the time. Let's talk about how we communicate with them, what kind of, you know, what would be a reasonable expectation, and start a communication process. But I would feel, you know, I don't want to start calling up people at the Board of Health and trying to set up meetings, if I don't know whether this is something that the town council supports.
I think, John, you need to do the kind of the legwork first to see if the Board of Health even thinks that this is logistically something that they can get involved in, or like, I don't remember who said it. You know, is this gonna require us to hire another person? Because then we're gonna have to think about budgeting, and we're gonna have to think about, and that will come to council. But if the Board of Health says, listen, I mean, I've been dealing with the building department on a resident issue, and basically the word I've been told is they're understaffed and they don't have enough people to do what they're already doing. So I think we need to know, is this even something that that area would want to do? Or what is the, I guess it's like, what is the entry point here? Who are the people that you can get on your side to say, yeah, that's something we want to do, and this is what it would look like? So I think it's just a conversation to test the waters, because if the Board of Health doesn't have time or manpower, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
If the DPW transfer station doesn't have time and effort to do it, that's a whole nother conversation. If we're gonna have to hire somebody, that's a whole nother conversation. So it's kind of like, I think you need to sit down with the people that are running the departments and have a conversation with them, and I think they'll shed some light on that from there.
I'll see what I can do.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about time, money, and effort, and there's only so much of that to go around. So we need to be aware of how that impacts all of the people in the finances in those departments, that we need to support it.
Jane? Jane?
If I might, it's been a couple years, but I think we looked at the weight, the likely weight of the solid waste that's shipped off Cape is probably about 30%. The volume may be a little bit less, but weight is maybe around 30%. I think we calculated that at that time, a couple years ago, is probably about $100,000 a year that the town is paying to ship food waste off Cape. As you said, I think, John, that I think you said this, I'm sorry, we only bring about 1% of our food waste to the opportunity at the transfer station. And so most of it is being shipped off that the town is paying for. And then there's all these other entities that are paying private haulers to take it off. That's a great target. It's not money we have available to start with, but if we could either get another position, hire another position, or get a grant. And Dave Anthony said this exciting information when he spoke to us 2 weeks ago, that Sean is really good at nosing out grants. Now, he's not focused on food waste, but he is a sustainability expert. That's why we hired him. So he may be able to give us some tips as to where we might look for grants to hire somebody to get a program like this started, hire one or more, or invite in one or more outside haulers that know how to do this. And then, we would be reaping the benefits if we got a third of the town to, do food waste, or if we got more of the town to do food waste. I think starting with the big producers, like the commercial restaurants, group living situations, schools, that's where we're going to get the biggest bang for the buck. But set it up like a pilot, but have somebody in charge of it. I think everything you've suggested, John, is extremely admirable, but I really think we're getting in the weeds beyond our mandate. That's my thought. But I think it's a very important program.
Yeah, I think, well, I think it depends. I think sometimes you have to come up with some ideas. We're not talking about implementing them, that clearly we're not the implementers, but maybe if I can make a suggestion. So I think, John, the idea of having a conversation with the Board of Health, in an introductory one, you can invite them to a meeting here if they're willing to do that. I think, Jane, your idea of the what's happening with the town of Falmouth and the Black Earth program, I think that would be valuable to find out more about that.
And I'm glad to do that. I just received the update from a person that I don't know personally, but we're on another group together, the Faith Community Environmental Network. She reported out from the Unitarian Church of Falmouth that all this was going to happen, that there's going to be some curbside pickup, all the schools and somebody else starting soon. So
Yeah,
I can get back to that individual and get more of the, you know, how did it get implemented? Who's in charge in the town, that kind of thing.
right. And if you could do that and report back and maybe work with John or communicate with John on that.
Sure, glad to do that.
Yeah. So, just kind of my view, the food waste, it is a big topic, and it is complicated, I think. So if we can we don't have to tackle everything, but if we can make some significant progress, and kind of incentivize the town agencies to do something in this area, that, to me, that's an achievement. Okay, on this topic, anything else? If not, we can move on to the next topic. I know for old business, we didn't put green communities on the list, frankly, because there's not a whole lot to talk about at this point. But I think we had a very positive meeting with David Anthony, and he and his organization, they'll be doing work in this area and getting back to us. I've been in communication with him on another item, which I'll talk about on new business, but not with respect to green communities. So with that, new business. So I understand that the appointments committee, which Kristen is a member of, has interviewed several candidates, and just wanted if you could give us an update about where you are with that process. And yeah, that's really what the ask is.
If my memory serves me correctly, I believe this Friday we'll be voting on this committee, on the candidates for this committee. And then that will be brought forward to the council for a first read and then a second read. I believe
Okay.
that and infrastructure and energy is on the agenda for this Friday.
Okay, and how many candidates?
I was away for some of it, so if my memory
Okay.
serves me, 3 or 4 people.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and so so that process will probably sounds like it'll take a few months to work its way through. Okay. All right. I'll say it's really not our role to make suggestions or recommendations on new appointees. That's the your committee's role. But I do want to say something because it's already a matter of public record. And I noted that William Beal is one of the candidates, and he did speak at a town council meeting. I don't know, it's been about 6 weeks or so. He said several things that were factually incorrect, that were significant, and I submitted a response in an effort to correct that, which I attempted to deal with it at the town council meeting, but I ran out of time, and I submitted a document to the town council, which to review. But the 2 items were, he said that the underground transmission cables for the Park City Wind project were DC or direct current, not alternating current. And that's just not true. It's not in the record of the signing board proceeding. I don't know where he got that information, but he said that there are several results from that. It generates more heat. It has electromagnetic effects that are going to be worse than what exists around apparently the Oak Street substation. But the underground cables don't have electric current emissions that go above ground. It's just the magnetic field. So it just seemed to reflect poorly on the due diligence that he did and what he said. So I just wanted to call your attention to that.
I already reached out to Patrick Johnson to clarify statements that were made, and I've shared those with him.
Okay. With
Mr. Beal.
Okay, all right.
Because obviously I didn't know, and I mean, obviously when I hear things, part of my role is to make sure things are factually correct, because of course, you know, there's been a lot of this, that, and the other thing, and
Right.
you know, and some of the information Avangrid has given us hasn't been exactly 100% true either, so it's always good to be asking and clarifying any questions or comments people have to get the
Well,
most accurate information, so.
I'm
you know,
I'm glad you followed up on that.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, to me it was just to give you an idea of what a big difference it is. If it's direct current, you need to have another big piece of equipment on land to convert the current from direct current to alternating current, which is not part of their projects. So there are some other offshore wind projects that will be using direct current. They're usually further away offshore. The sort of the economics are better, but not any of the Avangrid projects. So anyway, so that is that. I guess one other thing just to report. Well, before I get to that, so I think at the last meeting we talked about the town responding through this survey to this commission on energy infrastructure siting and permitting, and I had a conversation with Mark Ells and drafted part of that, which a response which I think he included in the response that he made for the town. But I was wondering, is that a public document? I haven't seen that.
Have you seen the draft document?
The one that he submitted?
Yeah, no, the draft document that the commission has put together, I think their final one is due in a few days, but they did share with us the only 500 responses statewide to that survey. And the Excel spreadsheet that came along with that and their draft comments have been shared with us.
Oh, okay.
And I did ask Mark if that would be made public, and he said it would be made public. So I don't know that I should be sharing that at this time. He may just be waiting for the final document to come out. But
Okay.
we heard a response about 6 or 7 days after, I think on the maybe 8th or 9th of March. They already had it pretty much wrapped up, what they were gonna say. So
Yeah,
even
that
though
doesn't-
comments were open until the 15th, and
Right.
the answer was due at the end of the month, that the draft kind of came out like this.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, but so anyway, so we're talking about two documents here. So the first one is what the town submitted in response to the survey. And the second is you actually, which is interesting, you got from the commission a summary of all the comments and their very probably brief response to it. Yeah, I mean, I would be interested in seeing both of those, but is
Yeah.
that, yeah, that's interesting.
Like I said, I asked Mark and he said it would be made public, but I don't think he's done that yet, so.
Okay, right, that's good. All right, and then the other thing to report, I mean, you know, just say that I know that the town, and this is as a result of the discussion at the town council meeting, is looking to retain a firm that would essentially at Cobbles Beach for the Vineyard Wind Project would test the magnetic fields to assure that they're in compliance with the siting board approval. And so I was asked to see if I could reach out and see if I could find some potential candidates, which I did, and I shared that with Mark Ells and had a follow-up conversation with Dave Anthony, who's looking on that. So I was asked if I could be helpful in this, and it was unclear to me whether I was asked as chair of this committee or just as an individual. But I thought I would just report on this because it's all part of that effort. And wow, it's 6:02, and I think we've gone through our agenda.
It sounds like you planned well.
So let's talk about the agenda for the next meeting. I think maybe to the extent we'll put green communities on the list. I don't know whether there'll be much of any new information.
I thought we were going to wait for Dave Anthony to follow up on that, like on his timetable. I don't think there's anything for us to do until then. That's what I read going over the minutes.
Yeah, but yeah, and to the extent that he has it, that information may come to me rather than the whole committee. So yeah, so I just thought just to report on that.
I think it's a key topic, so having it updated regularly is good idea.
The second is food waste. Again, John, I don't know whether you can report back, and Jane, to the extent you've made any progress there.
I'll get more information from Falmouth.
Okay, all right.
I can get it to John before the next meeting.
Okay. And
there's a hand up.
Yep, go ahead, Peter.
No.
Oh, Rob. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I wrote a letter to Senator Sear based on the comment last week about David Anthony's comment that the towns are capped on how much renewable energy they can own, I guess it is. And I got a letter back finally today and saying, yeah, I would encourage you to be ready to share your advocacy. Kind of a form letter, but he did say he's there town hall in Barnstable Tuesdays from 9 to 4:30. So I guess if anybody wants to drop by and talk to him about energy stuff or anything else, I guess, but willing to listen. Captive audience.
Okay.
That's Dave. Who is it, Rob? Was it Dave Anthony who's there for?
No, it's representative of Senator Sear.
Yeah,
Michael
misunderstood.
Holcomb.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, Rob, do you want to circulate that letter so we could see that and people who are interested could show up? Yeah, you're on mute, Rob.
I'll send it to Kelly and she can forward it. Kind of
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe put it on the agenda, the Commission for Energy Infrastructure, Siting and Permitting, and just if to the extent the report comes out, which was promised probably by the end of this week, can report on that. And anything else anyone else wants to put on the agenda? Okay. Well, good. Anyone want to move to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay,
Or I'll second
all
Peter's
in
motion.
favor of adjournment? Okay, that passes. Well, thank you very much, and we'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Have a good evening.
Take care, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.